When the river was deep, I didn't falter. When the valley was low, I still believed. When the mountain was high, it didn't stop me, no. I knew you were waiting. I knew you were waiting for me.
Welcome to Growing with Grace, African Americans on the Move. It's Monday morning, 8 a.m. Please tell your friends that Grace is on. And today she has two wonderful guests. And may I first say the topic is Stop the Violence. And my guest is Cornelius R, President, Founder of the Harlem Law Library, and Mr. Andy Burson, Street Lawyer. But he's more than that when you talk with him. Please. Now I'm going to ask you to please, Cornelius, you start off, because being Mr. President, I like that.
Oh my God, please. Grace, it's a pleasure being here today. I love you to death. One of the things that we're doing in Harlem is basically trying to influence black youth to go into medicine, to go into law. And by doing that, we only have 3% of black doctors in this country, 3% of black lawyers. I think a lot of times in the country, what happens is that throughout the country, I find that in certain urban white communities, they have libraries that's there in the community, actually in the public library. And I find in the urban communities, we don't have libraries where we can go and actually deal with addressing our cases. A lot of times what happens, I think, that we end up depending on lawyers to read our indictment and to prosecute our cases. I think that by knowing more about your case, you know more about the case yourself, because you know if you commit the crime or didn't commit the crime. So I think it's important to understand that we need to start influencing black youth to go into law and medicine, because we have so many different issues in our communities. It's destroying our community, especially with human rights, civil rights, and violations within the law. And one of the reasons why I decided to do the law library and behind the bench, to bring a housing court judge, criminal court judge, civil court judge into Harlem to deal with addressing legal issues. And by doing that, it shows the human side of judges. A lot of times, black folks do not get a chance to sit down with a judge and meet a judge one-on-one. A lot of times when we meet a judge, we have a tendency to meet the judge because we're in front of a judge. I always say that white folks in America meet judges behind the bench and black folks meet judges in front of the bench. And by doing that, we are dealing with showing the human side of judges, where I find it very disturbing when a black youth did not get a chance to meet political people. When I did David Dinkins' book, I was so upset that there was so many white youth and white people there to actually get a chance to meet the mayor of New York's first black mayor in New York City. I think every black youth in America needs to meet the first black president, first black mayor, first black governor. I think it's very important for them to meet them, because you may flash a light bulb in them. They say, I want to be just like you when I grow up. So we're trying to basically bring urban youth into the community to deal with addressing issues within the community and addressing legal issues that people there would show up at the Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street. And one of the things that we've done also, by creating this project, we also introduced Reverend Sharpton to this project with Michael Harding, and wrote a proposal to them about our program called Behind the Bench. And basically what Reverend Sharpton did, he took the idea from us. Instead of coming to us with the project, he took the idea and ran with it and created Legal Night. When we did Stop the New Fellas, he created what they called the huddle. So I think that my mother always said, if you're walking past a hog pen and find the biggest brick you can find, throw it in the middle of that hog pen, and the hog you hit the most, that means the one that screams the loudest, that means you hit the right hog. So basically by doing that, we must hit the right hog, but by dealing with Reverend Sharpton, coming along to create Legal Night as well as create the huddle. But one of the people I wanted to mention also that's doing the work is the Street Lawyers, Andy Burson, that's actually one of the lawyers who's working with us with the law library and also sits on the board for the law library and is in front of the state office building actually addressing issues that's very pertinent to the black community. I just want Andy to speak on the issues that we're talking about, what we're doing in the community as well.
Yes, Cornelius.
Tell us something.
And Grace, thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
These are very important topics today, and justice, or the lack thereof, in the Harlem community, in the black community, in communities across America that don't receive equal justice, is something that brings down the entire system. And I find, while I'm out on 125th Street, over the last 6 years, what has really taken me aback is the fact that many of the folks that come by to speak to me never have an opportunity, forget a judge, they never get to speak to a lawyer, period. And so I find they're so appreciative when they find out that I'm an attorney and they can actually ask me questions that they were unable to answer because they couldn't get into a lawyer's office. They didn't have the financial means, and attorneys, unless you have the do-re-mi, they don't want to hear from you. And so the Harlem Law Library / Legal Center is a very important project that Cornelius started. And really we want to raise the funds to complete it, because at that kind of facility, you see, we can send these people to meet with attorneys who have particular areas of expertise that can help them out, because the governmental institutions don't do the job because they're overburdened. Legal aid, I was a former prosecutor for 10 years in Kings County when I got involved with the criminal justice system. And now that I've been out of that for 25 plus years, and I defend cases at this point in time. I defend some cases, and I see the need for representation in the community for the folks that don't have the wherewithal to hire attorneys. The legal aid system is overburdened. Once in a while, let me put it this way. X% of people that are arrested and incarcerated are innocent. Whatever the percentage is, there definitely is a percentage of those folks that are innocent, and they are held and incarcerated because they don't have the money to make bail, where people that have money, that are incarcerated, that are arrested and are innocent, they're out. We have a presumption of innocence in this country. Not if you don't have the money, because it's already too late. And so what happens is, along the lines, there comes a point in time when those people are forced to take pleas that they are, just to get out.
Right.
And they tell me that they've done this, and I've seen it firsthand. So the Harlem Law Library and the Legal Center is necessary so the people who are in those situations have a place to go to in the community where it's most needed.
That's wonderful. May I say to Cornelius, I am so happy to see you again. It reminded me of the times where we met, and I don't know if we met at downtown, but what you're doing is just wonderful. So please continue, because our audience out there needs to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, Grace, what I find to be very, very disturbing is that just yesterday we had the cop down in Baltimore, or this one cop that was actually found not guilty for breaking his brother's back.
Yes, yes.
It seems that there's two laws in America. I would call it Negro law and I call it white law. And I think that what happens is that we don't have the churches. We don't have the churches. We don't have the voice of Shirley Chisholm, Malcolm X, or Elijah Muhammad, or Emmett Clayton Powell. One of the things that really blows my mind about the whole issue is that two of the greatest women I know, and three of the greatest women I know, was you, my mother, and Shirley Chisholm. And by speaking about that, first black woman for President of the United States, first black woman to be elected to Congress. No one talks about that. Obama has not mentioned that. And I always say the only thing that Hillary Clinton has over Shirley Chisholm, she lived in the White House. Right. I have due respect. They called, in fact, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton called black men predators. Bill Clinton was the one that created the problem with the urban communities by saying that on the federal bill that you got to do 75% of your time in jail. The states fell in line when the states followed that agenda. It disturbs me when you have judges, and you rich class shouldn't choose the dirty class, the clean class, dealing with judges. Should judges be appointed? Should judges be elected? I find very disturbing in Pennsylvania, they had 8 judges that was actually sentencing black youth to prisons they own stock in. One judge made over $3 million just sentencing black youth under the age of 16 years old, 17 years old, to prisons they own stock in. One judge made over $3 million, $4 million doing that. These judges were prosecuted for Pennsylvania, sent to prison. We found out the same violations that happened here in New York City. The violence in New York City is just as bad as any other place in America. You would think it'd be Alabama, Dallas, Texas, or North Carolina, or South Carolina. But right here in New York City, we have violations here that's completely absurd. And the only reason why we found out about the prosecution of the black youth that was being prosecuted by these judges owning stock in the prison system was because a white child ended up going upstate as well and being killed. Their mother raised so much hell to the point where they had to do a full investigation, and they did a full investigation and found out that these judges was actually legally sentencing, excessive sentencing to these black youth that did not commit the crime. One of the things that really bothered me more in the world was that I was beaten up by a judge, Judge Crocker. Actually, I wrote Judge Crocker up on disciplinary conduct, what happened to me, and I was actually beaten up, told to keep my mouth shut. And that's why the program is very important for me to actually deal with addressing these issues, because it goes on all the time. This behavior has to stop. What really upsets me more than anything in the world also is Ken Thompson. Ken Thompson was not elected by the Chinese community. Ken Thompson was elected by the black community to deal with cleaning up the district attorney's office in Brooklyn. Who do you know that's supposed to be representing the families within Brooklyn, where a prosecutor turns around and writes a letter, a personal letter, to the judge not to give the cop prison time for shooting that unarmed black man in the hallway of Pig House? I think it was Pig House or whatever. Now, that there was a slap in black folks' face in the community, as well as in the country. And a slap is supposed to be dealing with, when are they going to write a letter for me? If a cop arrests me and beats me up and shoots me, when is someone going to write a letter for a black child? When I went to court and sat in the courtroom and seen how many Chinese people were sitting there, the whole courtroom was filled, the outside the court was filled, and we had maybe 10 black folks that were standing there actually in the courtroom listening to what the judge had to say on the decision of dealing with Ken Thompson's letter to his office about the cop not getting jail time. What I find very disturbing is that if Ken Thompson had followed the agenda and the rules, which it wasn't illegal what he did, if he followed the agenda and the rules, most likely he would have set precedents for other cases throughout the country of prosecuting cops in America. I find it to be very disturbing. We are very forgiving. And one of the things, sometimes you gotta let it soak in like a good gravy or some nice rice. Let it soak in and get the full ingredients of it before you start forgiving people for something they do. We in our communities are very forgiving people. We have a tendency to forget very easy. Sure. The same way they always say, the same people that write the law can change the law. The politicians in our community are not speaking out about the murdering and the killing and the slaughtering and the raping of black women in our community and not addressing the issues. We have to start getting people, if it happened 30 years ago, all hell would have broken loose, because we had people there that had voices, people out there in the streets that spoke out about our issues and made it very clear where the black community stands for what is the black agenda. We do not have an agenda. We should not be running around Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton is the one that created the problem. But it's which glass you're going to choose, a dirty glass or clean glass? You're going to choose Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump may do more for you than Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama did for you. So the bottom line, sometimes we can't judge a book by its cover. I'm saying that to say this, is that sometimes we got to take a better look at our elected officials and look at the people that are actually representing us and not speaking out about issues that are very important to us.
You mentioned Trump, and you're comparing Hillary and Trump. What did Trump do when those 5 young men in Central Park?
Very interesting
He was ready to execute.
No, well, he did that. He wasn't the only one that did it. David Dinkins did it as well.
But the point is, he took out a full page.
He took a page ad in the New York Times and also in the Post with a news.
I keep
no. But the thing is that you're absolutely right. But the interesting thing about it, why hasn't that been brought up during the debate? Why hasn't that been brought up during the election? The bottom line is that when black folks talk about white folks, they whisper. When black folks talk about other black folks, they're loud. So the bottom line is that they whisper about Donald Trump. I'm glad you brought that up. It's actually Central Park 7. But the interesting thing about it, I don't understand how, by dealing with these particular issues, is that, see, the statute of limitations ran out. See, it should be a civil case filed against Donald Trump for what he did and what he did to those black youth of the Central Park 7. Not only that, I think that by doing the book signing with David Dinkins called The Mayor's Life, I think it's also to understand too, is that I think David Dinkins, the mayor, needs to apologize also to the Central Park 7, the Central Park 5. Give an apology. Because basically what happens is that if there was a white child that this behavior went on within the courtroom or even put it in the newspaper, it would have been an uproar. If a white child was shot and murdered and killed on the streets of America, there would have been an uprising within the white community of how this child was murdered. The prostitution of black youth in America, we walk around here like we're the walking dead. We have to get more involved in our communities.
Well, may I ask, when you say stop the violence, exactly?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is stop everything violence through education, through sports. We're putting together a tour. Right now, we're working on trying to raise money for it. We're thinking about doing it. We did a tour before, a 5-barrel tour. There was great success. And we're thinking about putting together a stop the violence tour. It's going to be a hot summer. And black folks are shooting each other on the streets of America in the wintertime. You imagine what happens in the summertime. So the bottom line is what we're trying to do is curb the violence by dealing with putting together all sorts of different programs. We're asking City Hall, hey, give us a park in all 5 barrels. Give us one park and give us one facility where we can hold programs, book signings, book readings, and things like that, as well as dealing with jazz or hip hop. Black youth can come in from the street. The Boys Club used to be very important. Remember Denzel Washington was the representative for the Boys Club. We need to start dealing with creating more blood.
That's why the law library, the inspiration for these youths to become lawyers, as Cornelius said, because there certainly needs to be more attorneys from the black community and the urban community, and they will be inspired through the law library, because they'll have attorneys there and they'll see it's an exciting field, okay, and it's needed, and they're being able to go and see for themselves what takes place in a law office, and see the interaction between the community and the people that are in need with attorneys or law students, because we already have, Cornelius has already had law schools that have committed. There are law students who will be very eager to work in the law library, because it would be a great education for them, because that's when you deal with real people. You know, professors and all that is one thing, but interacting with real folks who have real problems, that's the essence of what an attorney does, and they will have that to inspire them.
Now, excuse me, may I ask, on 125th, there's like a van?
Yes.
I passed it.
That was them.
Okay, may I just say the community should look for that?
No.
We don't have any more.
Here's what happened. I'll tell you what happened.
Oh, okay.
6 years ago or so, we had a van. And the van, I was working with another fella, and we lost the van. And so what I decided to do is I decided to just put a table out.
Okay,
So
very
I put a
good.
table out and I have signs up. And what I found is that being right on the street with my table,
You're right
with the
there
chair,
with the community.
that took away a barrier. And people were reluctant to walk into the van. But when I'm right there, so people are reading my sign, and then they're looking at me, and they go, "Are you a lawyer?" And I go, "Yeah." And then that releases the tension, and they start talking, and we're on our way.
But see, what happens is I think that they're shocked to see you out there on the street sitting at a table and a chair. A lot of times it's very unusual in urban communities to see a lawyer, especially a white lawyer, sitting there at a table or chair in the middle of Harlem, sitting there dealing with addressing urban issues within urban communities. And I wish they would see that there for him. I call him my white brother. For him to, if I called on him to do anything I asked him to do for me, he does that with open hands. And when he does cases, a lot of times he'll deal with handling a case without even no money at all. And then if he does ask for money, he's like he gets subway fare. So the bottom line is, what I'm trying to say to you, to have him doing that is something so special, and to be white. I wish we had, when I did a program called Behind the Bench, I had all these white lawyers and white judges sitting on the bench, and the black folks in the audience got upset and said, "Why do you have so many white lawyers and white judges sitting on your panel?" I said, "Find me a couple of Afro-Americans, we put them on the panel too." So the bottom line is, what happens is that we have a tendency to, like I said before, when we talk about white folks and talk about black issues, we're loud. When we talk about white issues, we whisper. And that's what happens in the black community, especially when you try to look for black lawyers and black attorneys to deal with addressing issues in our community. People, I like people who, you ever deal with a psychiatrist And the psychiatrist knows nothing about the urban community. But after you tell the story, she's scared to death and she signed the paper so you don't have to come back. Okay? So the bottom line is, the only thing I'm trying to say to you is that that's the issue. We need people to look like us, to think like us, to actually represent us in our community. White folks take care of white folks. And one of these we have to learn to do is take care of ourselves. We have lost that direction. If a man doesn't treat you right, what makes you think he's going to teach you right? So the bottom line is, what we need to do is start teaching each one, and teaching our community what it is to deal with education. It seems that we have lost that direction of education in our communities. We've lost that education of self-respect, of family, of women.
May I say this before you go any further? Some folks have a problem. We have to reach out and bring them in. My brother is in law. So, and you know, my husband was.
That's right.
So, you know, I quite understand from both sides of the fence.
Right.
But I would love for you guys to meet my brother Eugene.
Okay.
Okay? He was president of the Guardian Association.
I know the Guardian, sure. I know the Guardians very well.
And
Sure,
I
the
think the
Guardian. Yeah, I think it's a
would be
weaving was
wonderful.
worship. Right. I know the Guardians very well. The Guardians are doing a hell of a great job. I mean, the Guardians are somebody that has a great history.
Yes.
Okay? And what we need to do is start bringing in more youth. See, the issue is that, you know, somebody has to carry the torch.
That's what they're trying to do.
To carry the torch. The torch has to be lit. And by the torch being lit, somebody has to carry that torch. Until we start dealing with that torch to be carried in our community, we will lose the light that we have in the community we need to deal with addressing in our communities. I think it's important for you to understand that we need to do more programs around violence within our community. We need to start bringing in youth and hearing what the youth is saying. We should not be sitting around talking about what they should be doing. We should ask them what they want to do. And that's what we're trying to do with the Stop the Urban Violence program. We're trying to I'm trying to figure out which one is better, the Law Library or Stop the Urban Violence. Both of them have so much interaction together, and it has so much power. About when I worked for TV One and Kathy Hughes, I put on Kathy had a slogan that said, "I see black people living, loving, and laughing." I said, "I see black people living, loving, and respecting each other." I find that to be something very, very pertinent. I find it's something we need to bring back love into our community of loving self. I think we have lost that direction. I think we have lost the ability to think outside the box. We have to start looking into what we have to do with like the agenda. We had an agenda years ago, and had an agenda when David Diggins ran for mayor of New York City. There was a black agenda there that got him elected. There was a black agenda there for Powell. There was a black agenda there for Shirley Chisholm. There was a black agenda there for Barack Obama, but the people that actually put their foot out and really set the path for Barack Obama was white folks in America. And black folks didn't even know who he was. In fact, when I was with Obama, I was running around the country, I was getting actually cussed out by black folks that knew nothing about Obama and said they would vote for Hillary, especially in Philadelphia. So the thing is, understanding that we have to start doing an agenda and stop depending on people to take care of us and we can take care of ourselves. I think that's very, very important. And I love Andy for it. And what I love so much about Andy is that I always joked and said, God will always find you a white guardian angel. Yeah. And by doing that, I find it's not going too far. He goes straight to hell. But the bottom line is that I think that I always joked about it. I heard Charlie Reagan say something one afternoon. I spoke at a church with Charlie Reagan. And Charlie Reagan said that he went to the gates of heaven and there was a white man at the gate. He said, "Send me back to hell." I said, but the bottom line is that that agenda is so crazy to the point where God, when you start, and I always said the reason why white folks join in and start marching with us, like King said, they like to be beaten. But a lot of times, I always say their conscience is bothering them, so they know what they've done and what they've gone through. But I find that by being with Andy and the other white district attorneys and lawyers and judges, I find they're very sincere. It's very sincere. It's like Judge Daneberg said when we were doing a program over at the library with all these different judges. Judge Daneberg, we were talking about there's only 3% of black doctors and black judges in America. Black doctors in America. And Judge Daneberg stood and said, "I didn't know it was that many." And I find that to be something to be very disturbing for someone to come along and analyze this thing and then turn around and say, after they said, well, I have some black folks on the panel, turn around and said, Judge Daneberg stood and said, "I find black judges, black police officers being on the bench 30, 40 years, that they're more violent to their own people than they're violent to anybody else." And that was something that this white judge said after he got in an argument with people within the group about how they were abused by white judges and white police officers.
Okay. May I just say this before we close, because we're nearing closing. The opinion expressed is not necessarily those of the host, okay? May I just put it that way?
Sure.
But I would love for you to come back again because, and I'd like for the two of you, and I'd like to make it a 4-person panel.
We could do that. I think we could do
Okay.
that. But I think, Grace, I love you. I mean, one of the things when white folks call black folks radicals when you tell them the truth, but you never heard anybody call Donald Trump radical. So the bottom line is, what we have to understand is that some of the rhetoric he's saying is radical rhetoric. And the bottom line is it's dangerous rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? If a black man stood up and said half the things that Donald Trump said, he would be shot on sight or arrested.
I'll tell you, I hate to get into politics, but
No, it's the agenda.
there's
It has to be addressed.
okay, we will discuss that
No,
point
it's very
at another
interesting.
time,
Right.
okay? Because I'd love to debate you on that.
Well, the issue is that it's a fact. It's a fact that anytime we speak the truth, we're called radical. I mean,
I agree with
if
you
there
there.
wasn't, see, if there was not, if black lives had mattered, there wouldn't be no need for all lives that matter. If there wasn't a problem in America, there would be no need for Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or any WCP, the Urban League. There would be no Stokely Carmichael if there wasn't a problem in America.
And on that note, may I just say thank you ever so much for coming. But I just love this type of conversation, and I think it will benefit our community. And please give me a call and let me know what you think. And if you want to be in touch, can I give you a number?
Yes, sir.
If you want to be in touch with Cornelius Ricks, I'll give you his number. And in fact, we'll run it across the
Streets. The screen.
and as I said, if you see someone without a smile, remember to give them one of yours and have a blessed day. Okay. Peace, joy, and sir, thank you ever so much.
pleasure.
Thank you, Grace. I love you. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.